शॉर्ट हैंड एक स्किल है जो सिर्फ प्रैक्टिस और कंसिस्टेंसी से ही बेहतर बनती है। अगर आपने पिछली कंबाइंड डिक्टेशन प्रैक्टिस की थी तो आज का सेशन आपकी स्पीड और एक्यूरेसी को और बेहतर बनाएगा। और अगर आप नए हैं तो ये आपके लिए एक बेहतरीन अवसर है अपनी रिटेंशन, कंसंट्रेशन और राइटिंग स्किल्स को परखने और सुधारने का। गलतियों से घबराने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। शॉर्ट हैंड में मास्टरी उन्हीं को मिलती है जो रेगुलर प्रैक्टिस करते हैं और गलतियों से सीखते हैं। इसलिए डिक्टेशन को पूरा सुने, सही आउटलाइंस लिखने पर ध्यान दें और बिना किसी रुकावट के इसे पूरा करें। यह सिर्फ आज का सेशन नहीं है, हर हफ्ते एक कंबाइंड डिक्टेशन लाई जाएगी जिससे आपकी प्रैक्टिस और भी स्ट्रक्चर्ड और इफ़ेक्टिव हो सके। अगर आप सच में शॉर्ट हैंड में बेहतर बनना चाहते हैं तो इन सेशंस को अपनी रूटीन का हिस्सा बनाइए। तो चलिए अब पेन उठाइए, ध्यान केंद्रित कीजिए और अल्टीमेट कंबाइंड डिक्टेशन की इस प्रैक्टिस को पूरी लगन के साथ शुरू कीजिए। ठीक है, तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं। गेट रेडी। Start. This bill has been brought forward for the purpose of amending the 1954 Act, which originally applied to Part A state high courts, but after the reorganization has been so adapted as to make it applicable to all the high courts in the present states. Formally, so far as the then British India was concerned, we had the Order of 1937 under the Government of India Act of 1939. That act or the order was in force as appropriately amended or adapted from time to time. Then you are aware that the Constitution was passed and according to the Constitution, certain rules were laid down both in the body of the Constitution itself as also in one of its schedules. So, certain conditions of service were specified, as, for example, the question of the remuneration of the High Court judges and the Chief Justice in the various high courts, but some matters remained, and therefore in 1954 an act was passed by Parliament so far as then Part A state high courts were concerned. Before that, sir, you are aware that after the integration of states we had under the Constitution what was known as Part B states, and there were high courts therein. So far as these high courts were concerned, an order was passed in 1953 governing the conditions of service of the Part B state high court judges. Subsequently, after the reorganization of states, you are aware, sir, that advantage was taken of the amendments to the Constitution in certain respects, so far as the High Court judges were concerned, and those amendments actually came into effect from 1st November 1956. Thus, you will find, sir, that from 1st November 1956 we have the High Court Judges Act of 1954 duly adapted after reorganization. That is the main act, or as it is sometimes called, the Parent Act, which is now
sought to be amended in respect of certain matters. One is with regard to leave, and it is considered necessary to specify certain circumstances. The second is about the making of some of these rules applicable to additional High Court judges because special provision was made in the Constitution by the Seventh Amendment.
I am truly delighted to be present at this historic occasion when the All India Institute of Medical Sciences is commencing its Golden Jubilee celebrations. I am also honored to participate in the 34th convocation of this great national institution and be conferred with the honorary fellowship of the institute. Golden Jubilees of institutions offer us an occasion to reflect on their accomplishments and plans for future. AIMS is undoubtedly an institution of excellence in medical education and research and healthcare and is rightly regarded as a valuable national asset. It must be our endeavor not only to sustain past performance but strive day after day to improve upon it so that the next 50 years will be still more productive, still more fruitful in the service of the people of our country. The establishment of AIMS in 1956 through an act of the Indian Parliament reflected our commitment to achieve self-reliance in key sectors of the economy and human development. It also bore testimony to the value our national leadership placed on the attainment of excellence in all such endeavors. Speaking in Parliament on the bill on AIMS, the then Union Health Minister said, "It has been one of my cherished dreams that for postgraduate study and for the maintenance of high standards of medical education in our country, we should have an institute of this nature in India which would enable our young men and women to have their postgraduate education in their own country." She went on to say, medical education must above all take into account the special needs of the country from the point of view of affording health protection to the people. This was also the vision of India's first Prime Minister, who believed that institutions like AIMS would be regarded as the temples of modern India. The time has come for us, therefore, to rededicate ourselves to the mission of these visionaries and pioneers. AIMS has indeed fulfilled its mandate of establishing high standards of excellence in undergraduate, postgraduate, doctoral, and postdoctoral education. It has designed, established, and evaluated innovative models of education and assisted in their replication across the country. It has gained a well earned reputation for providing the highest standards of clinical care in the many specialists. This is on par with the best medical centers in the world. It has been the leading contributor to published medical research in India with scientific output of high impact. I, on behalf of our nation, salute AIMS for its glorious accomplishments and express our nation's collective gratitude to the many individuals who have contributed to its growth over the past 50 years, sunning greater reaches and greener pastures in the private sector or in other countries. They have worked selflessly to build aims to its present position of preeminence. We need to draw our inspiration from them today as we look to the future of AIMS. While we all are truly proud of our accomplishments in medical science and technology, we must be aware that the health indicators of our country do not do us proud. While working on the frontiers of science and technology is absolutely necessary, we cannot be happy by technological solutions and fixes. We must realize that health is the result of many factors, of which medical care is just one. It is a matter of serious concern that after so many decades of our effort, our health indicators are among the worst in the world. Our infant mortality rates, our maternal mortality rates, and the incidence of easily controlled diseases and epidemics and are unfortunately among the worst in the world. This golden jubilee, therefore, is a time for the entire medical fraternity to reflect on the ways by which we could improve the basic health levels of our population. Kerala, with its world class health indicators, has shown that there is no necessity for high standards of living or high per capita income and high cost medical care to improve the health of our population. I request all those connected with planning of health services in our country, those who are in the government, those who are health policy planners, AIMS, and the medical fraternity with the task of exploring ways by which we can bring the health status of the rest of the country to the levels prevailing in Kerala in the next one decade. I think that's a challenge which can be met and which should be met, and I suggest that AIMS must take a leadership role in this. It is only when society at large benefits from government investment in high class medical care that we can truly say that the investments have borne fruit. In this background, we must ask whether AIMS continues to move and uphold the values of its founding generation, have growth and expansion created bureaucracies, has bureaucratism robbed individuals of initiative, has the surge of patients reduced time for research, has the pressure of qualitative growth impacted qualitative development, has the emergence of for profit corporate health care created new temptations that attract better talent away from institutions like AIMS as such. Sir, once the very motion which we are discussing today is an economic one, I would confine myself to the economics of it, knowing that economic problems can be solved only by economic solutions and not by political solutions. We are discussing a national issue which is of vital concern to the people. Prices are a national concern, and as legislators, it should be our duty to place the subject above party politics. I believe prices and tempers should not rise simultaneously at
least on the floor of the house. It can happen in the market where prices and tempers rise together, but when tempers cool down, prices do not follow suit. That being the experience of life, let us try to understand the problem rationally, logically, and dispassionately. Let me reiterate today that what are discussing is the current price situation and not the situation as it prevailed during the previous regime. References to the past are, of course, always necessary in any analysis of the economic forces because economic wisdom is largely retrospective. But let us not be bogged down in mutual recrimination because we want this debate to generate more light than heat, and that I hope that is the desire of everyone participating in it. But that has not been the trend so far. When we discuss the trend in the current prices, we have to remember the positive indications. It is a fact that the annual rate of inflation in terms of the wholesale price index has come down progressively from 22% in January 1986 to 14% in the January 1997 and further to 10% in August 1997. I am afraid I have to give some figures because we have heard distorted figures and I would like to correct the position in August last year. The wholesale price index had risen by 12% over that of the previous year, but on August this year it rose only by 6%. Here I am not understanding the fact that the rate of inflation in the country is still high and even downward percentage changes in the rate of inflation cannot conceal the fact that they are indeed growth upon growth. The finance minister said this year that the prices would soon hit a plateau, but hitting a plateau is not enough. We have to ensure that after reaching a plateau, the prices actually slide downhill. I shall not extensively dwell on the contributory factors of price rise because I said earlier this is no occasion for mutual recrimination, but if one objectively analyzes the factors responsible for the massive price rise, I am sure many of you members sitting in the opposition will agree with me that you cannot evade responsibility for this entirely. The largest bungling with public finances and the total breakdown in infrastructure has been of the greatest tragedies in our economic life. And the shadow of that is still with us today. I shall also not go into the global factors such as the progressive rise in the prices of crude and also rise in the prices of other commodities which we have to essentially import. These factors on which we have little control, however, we must consider the relative weightage of these factors on the general price rise. The changes are already visible during the current financial year. For example, the impact the petroleum price rise on the overall price increase this year stands at 18%, which is slightly less than what it was last year. There has been a substantial fall in the contribution of sugar and gur
It was just about 2% this year, in contrast to as high as 39% last year. On the other hand, what has sharply risen is the share of vegetable prices, milk and milk products, fish and meat, cereals, pulses, oil seeds, and edible oils. On the whole, it has followed a pattern. Whatever is subject to seasonal variations has become scarce and therefore dear. I am prepared to put it down to climatic factors to some extent, but at the same time, I must request the Honorable Finance Minister to enlighten us on this as to why there has been a failure in poultry and dairy sectors. Even butter today has disappeared. It is scarce in Delhi and in other cities too. We would like you to enlighten us as to why such a situation has arisen. There are other confusing issues. We are told by the Agriculture Ministry that there has been a good sugarcane crop this year. If that has been so, why are we importing 2 lakh tons of sugar this year? We are fortunate that the agriculture minister is sitting here. I would like him to enlighten us on this point. I hope that finance minister will bridge this small information gap. Let me go to the main strategies that are being applied by the government. Stop.